Welcome, welcome everybody to Harvesting Our Stories, the official launch of a new program from the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition called the Story Gathering Project. And I am Pauletta Hansel, and I am helping to lead this project, and I'm very happy to see everybody here being part of it. So we are going to start with introductions, but I thought first, I'm going to share my screen just for a moment so that I can run you through the agenda of what we're going to be doing, I hope. So hopefully you can see the slides. If you're not, please tell me that you can't see them, because you have gone away for me. There you go. Now I got you back. Let me go. I need to go back there. Need to go way back. Sorry about that. Tonight's agenda. So we'll start with a check-in, your name and something of what brings you here. So just a quick getting to know each other. Then we're going to do a project overview. So a quick rundown of what it's all about. We'll show a video of some sample interviews, which is what I'm really excited about, that Erin has put together clips from all of the videos that we've done thus far, and then have some conversation and questions. And then if there's time, we'll try our hands at doing a little bit of interviewing and we'll definitely talk about what's coming up next. So let me stop the sharing. And I will just say that, if we were all in a room together, we'd be sitting around a big circle or lots of tables, and it would be very easy to know like whose turn it was next to introduce themselves. But because we aren't, what I like to do in meetings is just to say who's up and then who's up next, and keep going around like that. And so I've sort of started by saying I'm Pauletta Hansel, and that I am helping to lead this project. And I will just say, by part of what brings me here is that I am just really interested in people's stories. And I feel like stories are really the sort of the basis of community and communion and all those good things that have to do with bringing people together. And so I'm just really excited that UACC is taking on this project. So let me call on Erin next, and then Sandra, you'll be after Erin.
Okay.
So Erin, you got it.
Hi, my name is Erin Sweet. I am the communication specialist for UACC. So I do communication work for them. I put together this video that you're going to see. I'm super excited about it. But something really cool, I just started grad school at UC. So we're actually talking about interviewing and like all the processes that go into qualitative research and that sort of thing, ethnography. And I've been enjoying doing this and studying that kind of at the same time. So getting to see practice and discipline kind of coincide. So that's been fun for me, but I'm excited to get some interviews in after this kind of gets launched and actually get to participate. So I'm going to mute myself. So Sandra, if you want to go, it's all yours.
And then Nancy, you'll be after Sandra.
Okay.
Sandra, you're up.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's actually nice to be in a social event, even if it is on a Zoom. I often feel like I've been held hostage in this house, either by my health or by COVID. I'm on this Zoom because I cannot tell Mike Maloney no. never have been able to, probably never will be able to. Mike and I pretty much have a fond affection for each other, and our connection was my mother, Effie D. Pointer Saylor, lifelong resident of, she did not like it to be called Lower Price Hill, 8th and State. She was instrumental in starting so many things, but one of the biggest was the Lower Price Hill Community School. So anytime Mike says, will you do this? I say yes. So far, he hasn't gotten me arrested.
Thanks,
far.
Sandra. So far.
So far.
So Nancy's up next, and then Roberta, you're after Nancy.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nancy Laird. I've been connected with the Urban Appalachian Council Community Coalition for over 40 years, as many of us have. And it's my heart. And 8th and State and Lower Price Hill is also my heart. I'm still working down there. And I just love the people. It's family. They're family. You become family when you work with a group. You know, it's just family. That's all I can say. And I found out I was Appalachian through Maureen Sullivan and her husband many years ago, and have been enjoying finding the trail of how that works. And on October 8th, that weekend, all the old cousins are going to go down to the homestead for the Hunchiggle side, and we're gonna investigate that. And that's where they were born in Owenton, and they came across the river, right across the river to Kentucky, down in by Santa Claus and oh, there's a bunch of different towns, the Dale, and that's where our farm was. So I just am so excited to see you all here, and I'm so happy to have this to share with you, that you're sharing with us.
Thanks, Nance. Roberta's up next, and then Lisa, you'll be after Roberta.
I'm Roberta Campbell. I live in Covington, and I have been affiliated with UAC for a while. I've been on the board, done this and that. And I understand what Sandra means when she said you can't say no to Mike. And I keep getting, asked to do things, and I try to accommodate when I can. I'm from Eastern Kentucky originally, although I haven't lived there for many, many, many years. I was raised around in different counties in Eastern Kentucky. And I'm also an ethnographer. My research preference is participant observation and interviews. And so I love stories. I think that they're very, very important, whether you're just listening or whether you're analyzing these stories. So I think I'm so glad this is being done. Thanks.
Thanks, Roberta. So Lisa, you're up next, and then Nora.
Hi, my name is Lisa Brewer, and I just recently heard about the society. My boyfriend and Wilma here told me about this, and I am actually out of the city, so I couldn't join them, or else I'd be on with them. So I am joining here from Cleveland, Ohio, actually, to hear about what you guys do and see what we can do to help.
Thanks, Lisa. Glad you're here. Nora, and then Mike Maloney.
I'm Nora Stanger. I am the Appalachian Outreach Coordinator at Sinclair Community College, and I am first generation Appalachian. Grew up in Lawrence County, Ohio, right across from Huntington, West Virginia, and Ashland, Kentucky, up in a good old holler. And this past weekend, my husband and I got to go to Haynesville, North Carolina, and I spoke at the Hinton Center there. And I'm telling you guys, those hills, they call to us. They do, no matter what. And I haven't lived back home for a long time, but it's still back home. I'm here because I am a storyteller, and I come from a long line of storytellers, and some of them are true. And I just enjoy hearing every story I can.
Great, Nora, glad you're here. Mike Maloney, and then Joe.
I'm the research and advocacy person for specialist for the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition. I came to Cincinnati from Eastern Kentucky, specifically Breathitt and Lee counties. I was born in a place called Spencer Bend. Nobody lives there anymore because there's no road, and the river floods and cuts the whole bend off, so nobody can get in and out except in a boat. But I came here to go to school, found out my people were living in really rough situations, and stayed to work for a while and never did get back home. But my family still owns the land where I was born, and we can't visit it anymore because there's absolutely no road now. Somebody came and tore it up. Anyhow, that's something about my background.
Thanks, Mike. Glad you're here. Joe and then Maureen, but before that, I just want to welcome Nicole and say that we are just in the process of checking in with each other, saying our names and a little bit about what brings us here, and I'll be calling on you to do that in a little bit. So Joe and then Maureen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Andrews. I have a bachelor's degree in anthropology from NKU. I also got my master's degree in public history. When I was looking for a capstone, I got involved with Mike Maloney. Met him at a board meeting for the Over the Rhine Museum, advisory board meeting, and that was probably about 3 years ago. And I started collecting a couple of oral histories for them and for the Over the Rhine Museum. Because of the pandemic and a lot of other variables, that kind of I haven't collected any new histories since the Appalachian New Year, right before the pandemic started. So, but I got probably about 8 different interviews. Yeah, I don't know, and I just, when I heard about you guys doing this project, I reached out to Mike and Maureen and thought it'd be good to try and get involved again. You know, like you said, hopefully we're getting out of this whole pandemic thing and we can get back to kind of, you know, the same level of participation that we were pre-pandemic. So, yeah, my grandparents are from Appalachia. They're Owsley County, Whitley County, and Perry County, Kentucky. So I, as a potential professional historian, I definitely, definitely have some interest in, I don't know, just the stories and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We're really glad you're here. Glad you're back among us. Maureen and then Rhonda.
My name is Maureen Sullivan, and there are a lot of things that bring me here, and a lot of them, as I was listening to other people, I was thinking there are so many things that resonate exactly like Sandra, you were talking about, like you couldn't say no to Mike, and other people have talked about just loving stories and listening. And sometimes I definitely think that I'm much better at listening than I am at talking, because I love to hear people's stories. It's like a whole, it's kind of like somewhere between like being an explorer and searching out new territories like that are inside of people, and somewhat like just seeing the whole world, in just like little pieces at a time, and kind of all those pieces can make a beautiful, beautiful mosaic. My job, I guess, or my role with the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition as administrator, I kind of look at that like being the nuts and bolts person. I process the invoices and send them on, and I do some of the fundraising, and I kind of do this and that and the other thing, talk people into things sometimes when, like, I guess I'm following in Mike's footsteps in that regard. One of the things I want to say, though, and Erin, I'll send you more information about this for the website, but one of the small grants that we got to help fund the storytelling project is from the Ohio Humanities Council in Ohio. And it really, there's a whole lot of things that can happen on Zoom, and there's a whole lot of things that can happen by virtue of many, many, many people giving volunteer time and whatever. But sometimes it also helps to have a little money to pay for the things like projects and people that are working and doing just fabulous things. So I appreciate the Ohio Humanities Council, and certainly we are looking around for some other kinds of sources of support as well. So thank you all.
Thanks, Maureen. Rhonda, and then Matthew, you're up after Rhonda.
Good evening, everyone. Just like Sandra couldn't say no to Mike, I can't say no to Sandra because she's my aunt. And both of my sides of my family are from Kentucky. My mother was from Harlan County, and then from the Effie side, we'll get into all those kind of details and stories. But I think what brought me to go ahead and say yes to Mike and Sandra both was that we lost so many family members this past year due to age and health issues. And it's a little scary to think about all the stories that would be lost if we don't start, capturing them. And thank goodness Sandra is one of those people who can remember everything from the minute detail from 50, 60 years ago to yesterday. I'm not good at that, and I'm not good at storytelling, but I will, throw my 2 cents in whenever I can. But that's how I got involved, and just happy to be here.
Thanks, Rhonda. We're glad you're here. Before Matthew speaks, I just want to welcome Alicia and say, Alicia, we're just going around and saying our names and a little bit about what's bringing us here tonight, and I'll be calling on you for that a little bit later. So Matthew, and then Wilma is up after Matthew.
Hi everyone, I want to apologize. I'm in my dark basement, so you probably think I'm in witness protection or something. I also have my cat. I'm not from Appalachia, but my cat was born in West Virginia, and he keeps trying to eat my computer cable. So I thought I'd show him off. He's quite a big cat. So I teach history at Miami University at the Hamilton campus primarily, although I've also taught at the Middletown campus. And I do public programming, including directing public programming for Appalachian Studies at Miami University, which is based at the Middletown and Hamilton campuses. And I want to say last week, or was it the week before? It's sort of all the weeks blend into each other, I think, this year. But we were very happy to welcome Pauletta, as well as the Falcon Theatre and Raison d'Etre. You may have seen the advert or the notice that went out in the UACC blog. So while Pauletta was here and she did a Q&A with our audience, it was our first public in-person program since the pandemic, in fact. And she reminded the audience and reminded myself about this project, which is why we're here right now. And it's also something that hopefully I think we'll be able to engage some of the students at the Hamilton and Middletown campuses with the storytelling. So that's really why I'm here tonight.
That's great. Thank you, Matthew. Wilma, and then Mike Templeton.
Hello, I'm Wilma Jean Dunaway. I'm from deep down in eastern Kentucky, McGoffin County, Salyersville, Kentucky. So I'm new to this. And my son, who's Don Likens, loves Kentucky. He was born in Ohio. He suggested we do this. So I'm happy that he did that.
That's great. We're glad you're both here. Does your son want to introduce himself too?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I consider myself a hillbilly, and because we have still land down in McGoffin County, Salyersville area, so we love our heritage and we try to embrace it as much as we can. My father and mother were both from McGoffin County, Salyersville, And it's a great heritage, and we love the dialect that we hear when we go back there. Lisa's my girlfriend, and we just went there a few weeks ago, and we love the dialect. And she's a hillbilly too, though she didn't admit it when she did her intro. So thank you. We love this Appalachian heritage. We totally embrace it. Mom and I grew up in Norwood, so we're known as
Ohio.
We're known as Norbillies. Mom raised all her children in Norwood, and that's where we grew up, high school. So Appalachia is in my heart, and I love it. So thanks for having this.
Great. We're glad you're here. Lisa, do you want to say hi too?
There you go.
She did.
There you go. I was already.
Oh,
the
there's
one
Lisa.
that-
Oh, Lisa's out of town. Yes, I'm
I'm the
sorry.
one from out of town.
You're or not from out of town. You are out of town right now.
Exactly.
I thought maybe
outside
there was
Houston.
a third person hiding in the room.
Yeah.
But Lisa, tell them you're a hillbilly, Ridge Runner.
I am. Yeah, Rich Runner Hillbilly. Yeah.
Goes barefoot all the time.
I do.
And she's admitting it now. That's good.
Freely. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks to y'all. Glad you're here. Mike and then Debbie.
Hi, I'm Mike Templeton. I'm the writer for the blog for the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition. I'm definitely like a third generation Appalachian from my parents, grandparents, great grandparents, on my father's side. I'm here because, as the writer for the blog, I interview people all the time and do my darndest to report their stories and as best I can. And I get a lot of great stories. And one thing I'll bring up right now, just because I have the floor, is that one of the things that happens a lot when I'm talking to people is a lot of people aren't even necessarily aware that they are Appalachian. And then you start asking the right questions and you start finding out that they spent their entire childhood in Eastern Kentucky, and I always have to point out to them that counts. That's what we mean. And, because there are a lot of people who are like me, it's our grandparents who are from there. I grew up in Sharonville, although I've heard people call it Sharon-tucky, but, they didn't mean that in a nice way. But, those Appalachian ties are clearly there, and the stories are there to be found and told. And that's why I'm pretty excited about this project. So I guess that's all I have.
Thanks, Mike. Sorry. And glad you're here. I'm all choked. You choked me up. Debbie and then Nicole.
Hi, I'm Debbie Zorn. I am a member of the UACC Core Leader Group, and I have a great family heritage from Appalachian, Ohio and Eastern Kentucky with both sides of my family's grandparents. And let's see, I'm retired from the University of Cincinnati, where, among other things, I taught qualitative research. So I love gathering stories. I think it's just really part of who I am. I'm very excited about this project, particularly excited at the prospect of being able to kind of snowball what we're doing, starting with this little group, and hopefully we can keep it going, move out, and continue to engage others in doing this. And I feel we will be all the richer for what we end up with. So thank you, Pauletta, for getting this going.
Thanks, Debbie. Rhonda and then Julie.
I've already spoken.
Oh, you already spoke. I'm sorry, Rhonda. Everybody's been moving around on my screen, so it's I think I meant to say Nicole and then Julie. Is that what I had said before? I think so. Nicole, do you mind speaking?
Yes, I will. Sorry, I am finishing up a kids soccer game, so there's a lot of background noise here. So my name is Nicole Brazil. I'm a faculty member at the University of Kentucky in the Department of Community and Leadership Development. And actually my first kind of falling in love with storytelling was also my first falling in love with Appalachia. When right after college, I worked for the Appalachian Service Project, and I lived in Chavies, Kentucky, and then across the border in Jonesville, Virginia for half a year, and began to do interviewing and deep storytelling with a lot of the families that had had an opportunity to buy one of their homes. So now I'm currently in a cooperative extension position as faculty member, and I have 2 extension programming areas that I'm developing work around. One is in the area of strengthening community food systems with a focus on social equity, and the other is more relevant to this, and that is a focus on how we can utilize story-based methods to strengthen communities and organizations. So this is everything from really fun participatory story-based evaluation methods like ripple effect mapping and most significant changes, to story-based techniques that foster group cohesion and empathy like narrative 4 and story circles. And then I do work around leadership storytelling or public narrative based on some of the work of Marshall Gantz and some other folks. And then I have begun doing work around organizational storytelling. So I'm really excited to hear about this. I just got an email from a colleague about this earlier today and don't know anything about this project. So I'm super excited to be here and do my best to learn from you all while also watching 3 kids. So I'm going to mute myself.
Thanks, Nicole. We're glad you're here.
Pauletta, I have maybe a solution to Sandra's problem with the laptop. Jeff says that even on a laptop, it should be up in the right-hand corner. On his, it's right under the X.
It's an iPad, which I think makes a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks though, Mike.
All right.
Julie and then Alicia.
Hello, I'm sorry I do not have a USB for my camera, but my name is Julie, and I'm not from Appalachia. I was friends with people involved with environmental activism with App Voices many years ago, and was invited to an Appalachian Studies conference. And from there, actually continued just to stay connected to Appalachian studies. And recently, I guess it was a couple of years ago, was in Cincinnati for the conference and did the tour of Lower Price Hill and Euler. I write, I am an educator and a person with a background in the arts who's on disability right now. And I focus entirely on justice issues, and I am interested in like philosophy of knowledge and how we know things, and also questions like cultural relativism, how identities are formed and how we understand each other as human beings. And so I just received this email basically, and have only, really positive experiences with my learning through Appalachian studies. So I'm really just eager and curious. I have done some listening project work like through education, and love storytelling, just personally. So that's my reason to being here. I'm so glad to participate. Thanks.
That's great, Julie. We're glad you're here. And then Alicia.
Yes, hi. I am on my cell phone. I apologize if the audio isn't up to par. I'm sure we can all relate to a computer crashing at the very last minute when you desperately need it not to. So I'm just leaving the Apple store and without a computer for the next 5 days. So as I said, I'm Alicia Mays. I am a PhD student in anthropology at the University of Kentucky. I am doing a dissertation on food relief in Madison County, which is also where I'm from. So I grew up in Richmond, Kentucky, and I grew up in a really food insecure household. So I, after meeting Nicole Brazil, have been sharing my story of hunger around the state, including at the hunger rally with Andy Bashir last year, or maybe it was this year. I don't know. The semesters are all running together right now. But but I've been sharing my story of hunger, and I meet people throughout sharing that story that say that they can relate to these injustices of hunger that I experienced as a child and continue to experience as an adult. So while I am new to this project, I am certainly passionate about Appalachia, having been raised there, and also I am the social chair for the Appalachian research community at the University of Kentucky as well. So I would love to plug them in if possible. And yeah, I would love to look for more ways to be involved with storytelling, because I definitely believe in the transformative power of sharing our stories and uniting together to face injustices that we experience.
Thank you, Alicia.
Amen.
We're glad you're with us.
Thank you.
So I think everyone has spoken, and I've forced some people to introduce themselves twice. I promise I won't do that with everyone, but we're really glad you're here, and it's interesting, even in this little bit of snippet, to hear a little bit of each other's story. So thank you for sharing those with us, and we hope to get those fuller stories at some point throughout this project. But I'm going to share my screen again, and this time, hopefully, you guys keep going away from me on Zoom here. All right. So hopefully everyone can see the screen, and we'll just kind of move forward just a little bit. I want to talk just very briefly, just sort of an overview of the project. And then Erin is going to walk us through a little bit of the process, and then we get to do the really fun stuff, which is to see a little bit of the videos before we chat about how everyone can be involved. So the purpose of the project is at least threefold. One is to build a collection of urban Appalachian stories. And, I'll say for folks who don't know that the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition is located in the greater Cincinnati area, and that's our focus. So we're really looking at stories as we can talk about the greater Cincinnati area as broadly as we need to. And yes, Nora, we do think it includes Dayton for these sorts of things. And yes, Hamilton and
the 859 and the
yeah, that's right.
58.
So we can we can look at that as broadly as we want to and need to, and as people want to, but that's where we are, and that's where our focus is. And so to build a collection of these stories, and I'll just say, sort of as part of that the Urban Appalachian story is a web of stories. It's many stories. It's always changing, always growing. And I'll just add my little plug that no elegy is required for these Urban Appalachian stories. And really, untold stories are a loss to all of us. And I think we know that. Some people have even said that as we've gone forward, about how we wish we had had the stories of the people who are no longer with us. And then beyond that, it's to provide an opportunity for people to sit down and talk to each other, whether in person, we hope, or online, if we need to, as long as we need to stay online, or if it's more convenient for folks to be online, about our lives. So one of the things I will also just say is that it's, we've heard and said words like oral history and ethnography and sort of interviewing, and I think all of those are, important parts of the gathering of stories. But we also see this as being a very informal, let's sit down together, albeit with our recorder, with our camera phone in front of us, and I'll tell you my story and you can tell me your story, and we'll post it for other people to see. And then also, to connect more people with the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition. It's, you know, as I think as Sandra said at the beginning, it's nice just to be with people. And it's been a long, you know, an 18 months of not being able to have those kinds of connections that as a community coalition we would like to have. And so we see this as a way to be able to connect people with each other, but also to connect people with the organization and to grow our community and to grow our coalitional efforts through those connections. So the process is pretty simple, but Erin is going to walk us through it a little bit more, but I will just say, just sort of as a basic overview, and then I'll take my screen down and let Erin share that, you know, to contact us, to get some sample questions and a release form, because that's important. If we're going to be sharing people's stories online, we want to have, you know, a record of people giving us their permission. Then to record on your smartphone or on Zoom an interview with a Cincinnati area urban Appalachian person about their lives, including their Appalachian background, and some of the questions that we have help get to that. And then send us the recording to post it on our website, and also the release form, which gives us permission to do that. So let me take my slides down so that I've given sort of the quickie version, and Erin can give a little bit more detail.
Hi, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so if you are not familiar with UACC's website, hold on, you will be. We are adding everyone who signed up for this meeting to our newsletter list, so you'll be getting our weekly newsletter, which will direct you to our website. But you can always find us at uacvoice.org or through our social media accounts if you are looking for this beyond this meeting. So we have everything you need to know about this project. Let me move you guys over. Right here under the Story Gathering Project tab, you just click on that on our main menu on the website, and it shows you everything that you need to know. We'll get started with important parts of what you need to know. First, you're going to have to choose your interviewee. Again, this can be someone you know, someone you run into. As Mike said, you know, you just start talking to people and they reveal that they grew up in Eastern Kentucky or wherever they might have grown up in Appalachia, and you go, hey, would you be interested in maybe being interviewed? So again, like Pauletta said, very informal. Once you kind of have an idea of who you're going to interview, you'll want to contact us. We have our own email for this project at storyproject@uacvoice.org. Again, we'll be sending out an email to everybody with all this information. So no need to write it down right at the second. And then decide how you're going to record the interview. So as you'll see in our sample video, there are different ways that people prefer. If you're familiar with how to use your smartphone, then certainly use your smartphone. If you know how to record on Zoom, that's a great way to record it as well. Very easy. You can download it and send it or upload it, which we'll get to in a bit. I don't think we mentioned, if you do not have access, I know not everyone has access to a camera recorder or a smartphone. Even if you just have a voice recording, we haven't had any yet, but you can upload any file in the upload section of this project. And if that is more feasible for you, you can upload a voice recording of an interview as well.
And I'll just add in too, Erin, because we haven't said this, but it's, you know, if you don't have any of that, you have us, and so we can try to get one of us over with a smartphone, or to send you a Zoom link, or to help do it as well.
Exactly. Great point. Yes. Always use this as a resource. You can email Story Project if you want more information on maybe how to go about getting us involved as well. And then, of course, just obtaining a release form. We want to make sure we have everyone's consent. This will be on the internet. As they say, everything that goes on the internet is always on the internet. When you're doing these interviews, again, because everything's on the internet, if you're filming, just be sure to kind of take a quick glance at maybe what's behind the person. We don't want any offensive content or anything that might be perceived as offensive or vulgar of any sort. So maybe if you see something, just if you're on Zoom, maybe suggest that they have a background, but I doubt we'll run into this problem. Just something to keep in mind. So again, come to us if you have any questions about your interview. If you're like, oh, is this person Urban Appalachian? Does this count? I need help doing this. I need help finding someone. We will connect you. So please use us. And then choosing a time and place. This is if you're choosing to meet in person. It could be at a coffee shop. It could be at your home. If you feel comfortable, but just setting that up with the person ahead of time is important. Again, you can always use Zoom, so it doesn't have to be in person. And then choosing your questions. So we'll show you sample questions later on down, but just thinking about 5 to 10. We're saying about a 15-minute time length, just as a consistency thing. Again, this is informal, so no need to tell everyone your whole life story. So I think it's important to think about 5 to 10 really good questions that are going to capture the person's story and their history or tie to urban Appalachia. So the archives, I'll show you where to find the archives. You can find them on this page by clicking this link. But we will once we get a release form and we get the file, we will upload it, and you will get an email saying that your interview has been uploaded and you can watch it here. And this will be the place where you can come. So those, if you're doing any sort of research, I know some people are scholars here. This is a great place to kind of see all those, because we're not releasing them public on YouTube just yet. So this is kind of the only place where you can find those. And then during am I good to keep going, Pauletta?
Yeah, why don't you go to there, but we won't actually get to the questions.
Okay.
We'll save the questions for later.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, so it's important to remind people this is an Urban Appalachian Community project. It is through us. So we want people to kind of know about what we do, what is their reach, what is our mission, because it's really important to us. And kind of engage them in that conversation now that you all are familiar with Urban Appalachia Community Coalition or Appalachian Community Coalition. Maybe you can give them the rundown. There's also excellent resources on our website if you would like to learn more. We also have a brochure, which I will show you where that's at. So you all can access that and learn more about UACC and then share what you've learned about UACC with other people. So yes, just sign the release form. They do need to know that they are being recorded and this is going to be shared. That is important to tell people up front, as some people are private and don't want to be on the internet for good reason. But I think if you explain what they're doing it for, most people will probably agree to it. Be sure to test your recording equipment. Make sure your volume's up or your speaker's working and both voices can be heard and everyone can be seen. And there's nothing like going back and watching a video that you recorded only to find out that you did not record or your mic wasn't working or something went wrong. So Please do a little bit of tech testing and then start your interview. Once you kind of have all these steps in place and you've kind of checked off all the boxes, you can start. And we'll save the sample questions for later. But I did want to point out that on this page, you can find a sample interview, I think somewhere.
Up at the top.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. It's Nancy.
Is it? Where did it go?
There's Nancy. It's Nancy.
Okay.
Sample interview. Yeah.
Oh, I think I replaced it with the archives.
Okay.
I had it down lower. and then
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
what
you see a
happened.
bunch of sample interviews there.
You can see a bunch of sample interviews. Okay, never mind. Okay. And so do you want me to go through where they can put the recording?
So yeah, just briefly that the links are there. Yeah.
Cool. So once you all have your recording, if you know how to edit it and you want to, great. If not, send it our way. We'll figure it out. We want your stories regardless. So we are using Dropbox to upload videos. So if you click the please upload recording here link, click on that here and you will be able to just submit a file. Please, if you can, download the file as standard definition, not high definition. I think there was an issue with one of our sample videos, it being downloaded in high definition. So it took up a lot more storage and it's just harder to upload in general. So it looks great though, but if you can, please do standard definition. And you can put it there. If you have any questions, if your file isn't uploading, we don't want to lose that story. Please let us know. Contact storyproject@uacvoice.org and we will figure out some other way to get your story.
Where would standard or high be?
Well,
because that was mine, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
You have it's a setting on your phone. So
yeah, I think
you need to look at
yeah,
it.
when you record.
Because I was going to say, it didn't ask me the question.
Yeah, that might be a little bit more detailed than we can go into here, but we're going to try to add that stuff to the website. But Erin, could you click on the recording here, so people just see what happens once they get there?
Yep.
So basically, you're going to be, once you're ready to do your recording, you're going to be sent to a place where all you have to do is to upload it. You either drag your file up there, or you click on there and you add it as an attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just wanted people to see that that's how you get it to us. But we've been working with people on a lot of different ways of getting it to us, depending. So hopefully we'll by the time everyone is ready to do this, we'll have all the possible ways. But as long as it's under 2 gigabytes, I think that's the right word, you'll just be able to just quickly upload it here.
Yep. You should.
I gave you lots of practice for lots of ways.
That's right. You sure did.
It's important
Nance.
work.
We love
Nancy.
you.
Yes. So hopefully that's easy enough for everyone to figure out, even if you're not the most tech savvy. You can get on this website and you can scroll down to the bottom and click here. You should be good.
And if not, you can email us.
Yes. If you forget, we will be emailing you after this. So you will have our email. Please use it. Yeah. These releases, we're asking that you first contact us to get the release form. We want to know who you're interviewing or that you are interviewing at least. And so you'll contact us. We'll send you the release form. And then once your recording is finished and both parties have signed, please attach. You could take a photo of it. If you want to scan it, that's great. If you know how to do fillable PDFs, that's also great. You can also snail mail it. You can print it off and send it and snail mail it. We've included our PO box, so you can get that to us if it is snail mail. You can also email it to us, so you can send it as an attachment, email it to us. Photo attachment, PDF, whatever works for you. And again, if you cannot figure this out, please let us know. and email us. And then just lastly, briefly, we have a brochure. I'm going to click on it. You can download this to print, but it's just a little front and back, who we are, what we do. Feel free to read over that if you don't want to go searching on our website. But that's something you can send to someone else who maybe doesn't know about UACC. They're like, who am I interviewing for? What? This is a great 2-pager. So Pauletta, I am going to hand it back over to you
Okay,
if there are no questions.
Well, let's save the questions actually.
Okay.
Because
hand it
I
back
want to
over.
get to I want to get to the fun stuff. We have had the opportunity over the last several weeks to actually do some interviews. And so Erin, over this past weekend, put together a video clip of the interviews that we've done thus far. And so I want to share that with you. Oh, stop. I don't want to share that with you. That's the wrong thing. How do I get back? Okay. Let me stop sharing. I had it already up and loaded and ready for you, but I'm going to.
Oh, but I love Brene Brown.
Okay, I'm sure they're very
great.
nice, but that's not what I wanted. Sorry about that. Let me get that again. All right.
Bye, Nora.
Is Nora taking off?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you again, Nora, we hope. So let me just get back onto Zoom and share that once again. All right. Where did you grow up and what was it like growing up there?
A lot of us, but everybody knows everybody and they look out for each other, so it's nice.
And I just remember a good childhood. My grandmother, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. My mom, she worked at the Middlesbrough Clinic there. So I spent a lot of time with my grandma. She was one of those grandmas that raised pretty much all the grandkids were with her.
You know, I was in Reverend Gorge because I am an Appalachian. I am a mountain person for sure. Growing up in the inner city, I'm definitely an urban person. So I could never necessarily live out in the mountains. I will always live in a major city. But visiting is really important for me.
Even though I haven't been there in a while and I don't have, my family's moved away and everything, I'm rooted in that Eastern Kentucky region. That's where, when you're a kid, that's where you form most of your values and sense of identity and all of that.
I consider myself very lucky coming from, my mom came from Maysville, but her story is way different than my dad's. My mom's dad actually came to the United States as a child. It was him and 7 brothers. And they settled in West Virginia and Kentucky. And I'm not for sure what his people do. I just know they came from England. A lot of them were, I'm going to say, I think a lot of them worked in the coal mines too. And a lot of them were farmers.
What were some of your favorite things to do growing up?
Really like skateboarding. Me and my friends would be like in the driveway for hours just trying to do one trick. We play in the woods. We like built tree houses. Probably had 3 of them throughout the woods. Played music.
There was just all these like Appalachian kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like home remedies type of things, you know? So like when I was growing up, it was you never pop a blister unless the sun is down.
I didn't really like the outdoors, but because he had the urban worm business, I followed behind him. I would be in the woods holding the bucket while he was dropping the worms in there. I would look at his writings and, you know, just, I think that's my love of poetry and how it's more lyrical and my rhyming scheme and everything, because he really followed like Psalms and Proverbs, and that was my first reading of what I would consider like poetic.
The things that well, my dad was very strict. So the only thing really that I was allowed to do was to go roller skating with all my cousins.
To hike 80 miles to the Appalachian Trail. And we hiked between North Carolina and western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, and you know, saw a lot of that the wonderful Appalachian Mountains, and I wanted to go back, so I did. And seeing Winding Ridge Road was pretty cathartic. I feel it was really beautiful.
Could walk to 8th and State, usually with someone, and there were so many restaurants. There was Paradise Restaurant, Peter Pan Restaurant, Crystal Kitchen, George's Chili, The Transfer. So if you wanted a chili hot dog, or if you wanted a home cooked meal, you could walk to that within 5 minutes. It was just vibrant.
But I can remember when we moved to Ashland, one of the houses we lived in had a little grapevine in the back. And my mother had made some grape juice and grape jelly. Oh, and she also made great apple jelly. We had an apple tree in the front yard, a crab apple tree. But she did apples and make apple jelly and apple sauce and apple butter. She was good at that. She could bake too. She couldn't cook much else, but she could bake.
And you left the neighborhood when?
I moved out of Lower Price Hill in 1992, but I've never left Lower Price Hill.
I know, you're still involved in this day.
Well, they didn't like it because they had to use an outhouse. And I guess the rooster would hide by the outhouse. And Grandma, when she was a little girl, she'd have to go use the outhouse, and the rooster would chase her around. So
Roosters are very mean, that's true.
We didn't really know too much about racial problems when I was growing up, because my grandfather was white and Indian, and he married my grandmother who was black. So, and the majority of my family, my cousins, my first cousins, they're all into pretty much interracial marriages. So we didn't grow up. And then most of my friends, my classmates especially, the majority of them are white, you know. So I didn't grow up, I didn't really know what it meant to be about prejudice until I came to the city, to be honest with you.
To a college, Morehead State University rather, not a college, where most people were getting their teaching degrees, because it started out as a normal school for educators that taught teachers. I don't know if you know that's what a normal school was, but that's what it was. And I didn't want to be a teacher. I did not want to be a teacher. My father was a teacher. Eventually, my mother became a teacher. My brother was a teacher. A whole lot of relatives on dad's side were teachers. And I hated what they went through.
Because?
Rules, regulations.
I didn't have a vehicle like the Jeep to necessarily explore that far down. I was in a SUV, a Buick SUV, so it wasn't necessarily like
or an urban SUV, yeah.
Yeah.
My grandpa would always say Cincinnati. Whenever he said Cincinnati, there was just that little country twang, you know, and words that you're like, what does that word mean? And it's like, that's grandma's talk.
I'm going to tell you a story.
my mom and dad divorced, so I went to stay with my mom for a little bit in Kentucky. I was so unhappy. I couldn't fit in. I was so unhappy. I didn't make friends easy. I stayed to myself. Finally, I said, I'm moving back.
You were a city girl, huh?
I moved back to, well, we still lived in the city over there.
Right.
We did, but it was not, it wasn't home. I got back to Lower Price Hill and it was like, phew, what a relief.
So that is just a tiny little sampling of the stories that we've captured so far. It's you've heard a little bit from everybody, but each person has a 15 to 25 minute or so video that's up on the archives page that Aaron showed you, and we hope that you'll go and take a closer look at it, because these stories are they really are marvelous. And there's just so many different ways. Aaron did such a good job of showing sort of the breadth and depth of people's stories, but there's so many different ways that even those, how many was that, six or seven, I wasn't even counting, but however could be done, because everybody talked a little bit about their Appalachian background, finding out they were Appalachian, whether or not they used the word. Almost everybody talked a little bit about food, everybody. So it's like there's just different ways that it can be sliced, and that's with only 6 or 7 different videos. So I think we'll open it up now for questions and comments, what people want to know or what people want to say about what you've seen. People who have done interviews, if there's anything you'd like to tell folks about those interviews that will hopefully encourage rather than discourage involvement.
The only thing I was a little worried about is you mentioned 15 to 20 minute interviews. The interviews I've done have all been closer to the 1 hour mark.
Yeah.
So am I going to have any issue uploading those?
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. That is part of it. That really are. This is a very sort of casual conversation, a sort of slice of life conversation with each other, and so if it is longer than maybe half an hour, and then there's the sort of with the phone setting too, that we'll try to talk a little bit more about with folks individually. It won't upload in all likelihood, because it will be more than 2 gigabytes. And then the other piece of it is that this is something that people will be looking at on the internet, on our website. And chances are, I don't know how you look at material on the internet, but I think for most people, 15 or 20 minutes or so is about the most that most people will look at one interview. Now, if you have editing skills yourself and are able to send us it in sections, that certainly is a possibility of doing an interview that's as long as you want, and then sending it to us in sections so that we can do part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. I think actually Maureen's original interview was an hour, and I think Jeff is going to help her make it into segments. But we're pretty low staff. It's Erin and me, and Erin has tech skills, but she's in school full time and working full time and doing this work part time for us. And I'm a teacher.
I was planning on taking, like I said, I'm a student at NKU, and I talked to the folks at the media services department. I was probably gonna at some point get them all together and give them to them for editing. So I may just wait until I get the edited versions before I upload them to the UACC website.
And that would
Is
be
this-
fine. And in the meantime, if you have interest in doing some of these shorter interviews, you know, with people, you know, with fellow students, with family members, you know, just this sort of slice of life interview, we'd love to have them.
I know I've got some really good ones. My first one was with Mike, and I think me and Mike talked for like an hour and a half. So and then same thing with Maureen. I think Maureen was actually the last interview I did, and I want to say it was at least 45 minutes to an hour. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a slightly different kind of project, you know,
Yeah.
although certainly we can share them in sections on the website, but this is much more about getting people sitting down and talking with each other and doing stories. You know,
I got an interesting comment from a 14-year-old boy. I was looking at my interview with Donna, and he said, "I could never do that." I said, "You can never do what?" He goes, "She's just so comfortable." So I think that's a key too, you know, making sure they're comfortable. I mean, you do it unconsciously, but I hadn't, here he is totally, you know, out of the clear blue sky, happened in my office and said, "She's so comfortable." And I think that's a real key too. I think that's so important. It helps people remember stuff when they're not nervous.
Yeah. So Wilma, were you going to say something or
Well, no, I was going to say, yeah, the 12 to 15 minute, Pauletta, is right on. If you've ever heard a TED Talk, they're less than 15 minutes. They're about 12 minutes. And then, you know, I don't know if you guys have heard of StoryCorps that's at the Library of Congress. This is very similar to that. And those, I did those with both of my parents. And those were less than 15 minutes. You had to make it less than 15 minutes. And those are all archived at the Library of Congress. So similar type of thing, but so maybe we can get ours archived there as well. But yeah, you got to keep it down to 12 to 15 minutes. I think that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, and StoryCorps is a great example. In fact, we did sort of model this after StoryCorps. I pulled some of the questions, some of the sample questions from StoryCorps, and then also on the website there's a link to StoryCorps if you want to get more questions. But let me show you the questions that we have, and then we can definitely keep.
Well, like you said, I could also probably section those interviews out.
Yeah. So if you can see this, I'll read them aloud. I know it's a little smaller than some of the other slides, but 10 suggested questions, and almost everyone used some version of these questions to start with. But one of the wonderful things was then it went off in all sorts of different directions, you know, so you start with the first couple and then you find out where to go from there. And Nancy's with Nancy didn't get a chance to ask any questions, but Donna ended up answering these questions for the most part anyway, I think. And so there is that. But so when and where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was it like growing up there? What were some of your favorite things to do? Where are your parents' family from? Have you ever been there? What was it like? Have your parents or grandparents told you about what things were like? Did you or your parents use words like Appalachian or mountain people to describe themselves? And do you now? That actually got some really interesting questions or answered. That I think ended up being one of my favorites to hear from people. How do you feel that your upbringing has helped make you who you are? And then what else would you like to tell me? So those are the 10 basic, but then if you were looking on the website, you would see that it would also link you if you wanted to some other possible questions, and then also to StoryCorps if you want even more questions. But here's what I think is the most important thing. The best questions are ones that interest you and get your friend talking. Follow-up questions such as then what happened can be very useful in keeping the stories flowing.
Yeah. You talked about Dropbox. Are these videos being archived permanently so that, you know, 10 years from now when Dropbox goes away, we'll be able to find them?
Yes, they are being stored on both YouTube and Vimeo. And the website links to the YouTube video. So they go away from we take them out of Dropbox almost immediately and store them elsewhere. But Dropbox provided the largest possible upload to any of the other things that we have looked at. So what else, or what, for people who have done interviews, what would you like for people to know about this?
Well, I mean, obviously the challenge I brought up is that, you know, keeping it to the 15 to 20 minutes, because even when, you know, I went into it with a list of questions, about 10 questions as well. And one thing that you find is that once you get people talking, sometimes it's kind of hard to keep them on track. Like you said, like a lot of the interviews I had, they pretty well answered all those questions that I had without me specifically asking them, right? Like it's really kind of interesting. You kind of go into it with the mindset of like, you know, oh, I've got this all structured. I'm going to ask this question, this question, this question. And next thing you know, you've been talking about, you know, the Vietnam War for 20 minutes or something, like I did with
Yeah.
some veterans that I interviewed at the VFW in Dayton, Kentucky. So.
Right. It's what they need to speak about, you know?
Yeah.
They have to speak their heart. And I think that's what's so, you said I didn't ask you the questions, but it's so funny. I had the questions there. I didn't even look at them once we got started because it kind of flows. And you don't need, if you know the person, you understand, we're all interviewing people we know very well. I can't wait to get a hold of this AmeriCorps worker who's from Tennessee. And he came up and he's African American. And so he's got a whole different, you know, what happened, you know, his experience. And I can't wait to do his interview. Now, see, it'll be different because we're not friends. We're not good friends, you know. So I can't wait to do his to see how this is going to work. And I think the questions will be important then. Yes.
One thing I would offer is that, you know, following up on what Joe said, I mean, people will talk about, get off topic, I guess, is, you know, but at the same time, don't be afraid of digressions. I think digressions are really good. And that's where memory has a way of, you know, pulling up more memories. And when people start to digress, when they start to let their own thought process go, that's sometimes, very often, where you're going to get something really interesting and exciting. You know, just most recently interviewing this guy in Chicago, where we started talking about what he's doing in Chicago, and it really didn't take long before it came back around to things he did in Cincinnati, things that we actually shared, you know, a time in history, I guess, that we shared, you know. And so those digressions are really helpful. And often the story that you're after is the digression. That's the only thing. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, for 15 minutes, you gotta be able to corral people a little bit. But you know, as a friend of mine said to me once, digressions are not.
The thing I'm finding most challenging so far is I really want to interview my grandparents and my great uncles and like people that I am close with. The interviews that I've collected so far, they're all people that I've never met. Like I said, the Mike and Maureen are the two that I probably knew the best out of all the interviews that like I said, I've collected probably about 8 or 10 interviews and I just show up at their house, you know, complete stranger, you know, that just told them, hey, I know Mike Maloney, and most of them were just like, all right, you know. So, but I really want to get my grandparents' stories and my great uncles and all them, and I find it really interesting that I'm more nervous about interviewing them than I am about interviewing complete strangers, and it's so funny. I was at my grandparents the other day, and we started just talking about, like, you know, my grandparents growing up and all this, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, I should turn on my iPhone right now and start recording this. But then I thought to myself, if I do that, it's just going to ruin the whole, like, atmosphere. It's going to ruin it, like adding that you know, that that element to it, so
I
it's just,
like this.
It won't,
it's really
Jeff. It won't ruin it. Get the recording.
yeah,
Because
I really do. I really want to.
have
And
to
it's just,
tell their stories, and I'm thinking of an interview with my brother-in-law, and he died a few years later, and now I have the richness of his storytelling.
I don't
yeah,
think
I
the
was thinking about
phones,
that.
do you think the phones are I don't think they're as invasive as a camera. I think a camera feels more invasive because you're holding the phone down, they can see your face. I don't think the phone is as intrusive, perhaps, as the cameras can be.
But some people love the camera. My brother-in-law, he was a
Did he?
storyteller. He
Oh.
performed. He performed in front of that camera. And
So
I got
I'm aware of time and want to make sure we get to hear from some other folks who may have questions or ideas as well. And so, Sandra, I want to start with you. You've been recently interviewed. Could you see interviewing someone else?
Well, I'm in a unique position because all of my life I've written stories, and they were personal and private, and I kept them to myself. But in the last 10 or 15 years, I began to write stories about my mother, values that she taught me. Rhonda's father, my oldest brother, Ron, and my next oldest brother, Dave, died within 2 weeks of themselves last summer from lung cancer and colon cancer. But for 10 years, my brother Ron was a bartender. For 10 years, he was a bartender for years, but for 10 years, he'd say, somebody needs to write these stories. Somebody needs to write these stories. So we were together most Saturdays, and I just began to turn on my phone. He didn't even know it, and I'm recording. He knew that I was doing it so that I could remember, because I actually typed the stories. They're in print. And so 2 weeks before he died, I handed him his binder with all of his stories. I had 10 siblings. My mother had 11 children. I'm the 10th. There are 4 of us left. There has been an urgency inside of me for the last 24 months to get the rest of Effie's kids' stories told of what's in my mind. Rhonda told you, I can remember, I can't tell you what I had for lunch, Pauletta, but I can tell you a lot about what happened. And my memories go back to about 6 or 7. I've been an interviewee and I've been an interviewer. And here's where I think the crux of this is. Do you want a story told, or do you want an interview? Because they're 2 different things. If you are interviewing someone you know, you have an inkling of what you want to know more about because you've heard them tell that story. So for that young man with his grandparents, let them tell their story, because that's more important than any project that's going on, and he'll value that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would
think
say
that's true
is,
for this, for this, it's true for this project as well, that the questions are meant to help get people talking, but what you know and what you're interested in is really what's important.
And I would probably, if I begin to interview, I will look at those 10 questions. And if I don't know the person, I'll probably pick the 3 that I really want to know. Because if I don't know the person and I really want to know them, the next person that watches it, they might want to know that. But if I know them and I've heard a story and I think, oh, that needs to be shared. The other thing is there's such an age representation in this group tonight. I'm 71 years old and grateful that I've made it 71 years. Some of these young people look like they're not 30 yet. So if you interview somebody my age, you're going to get an entirely different story. But know that when you're doing this project, the people that are 70 and 80, you better strike while you can. So if you have a choice, you need to get those histories. I was listening to that young man talk about what he did as a child, and he did rollerblading. And I thought, I caught lightning bugs on a summer night. I ran shoeless in the puddles. I played hopscotch. I ran in and out of my friends' homes. I sang on St. Michael's steps so I could hear myself. I walked to 8th and State and we peeked in the bars to hear the music. We did things, jump roped, played hopscotch, but we weren't inside. And I guess really just to summarize what I'm trying to say is, you're never going to get 10 questions answered from any quote hillbilly in 15 minutes.
Exactly.
That's just not how we do things. If you want to spin a yarn, you might get one question answered for 15 minutes. And
10 minutes to win it.
there you go, 10 minutes to win it. Yes, yes. And you know, who's to say? We could go back if we find that person really interesting. I mean, just because you're interviewed once, we don't have to be one and done.
That's exactly right. And you can even stop the camera and start it up again if you've got enough juice in your phone so that you can, so that it can be of a length that can be uploaded, and then do a part 2 that is of a similar length. Yeah. So Matthew, what do you think your students would need in order to be involved in this project?
That's a good question. So I guess, with our students, a lot of life has come back to campus this semester. There's face-to-face classes again, but we're a commuter campus, so it's not a place where people come and they take their classes and they get their credit hours and then they leave very often. So it can be difficult to get students, for example, to stay for evening events or to sort of really engage in extracurricular life. So I guess really try and find a kind of way of pitching it to, traditional students or, students at the regional campuses. Why would they want to do this? What would be the benefit of being part of this project? And like, I think Mike made the point that a lot of our students are Appalachian heritage, but maybe don't see how that relates to them. I think some of them really do, but there's different levels and trying to pitch this as sort of Appalachian stories. I think it kind of almost needs a sales pitch in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Roberta just put extra credit as a possibility, but I also wonder if it can be, if there are classes that are related to Appalachian studies, if it has to even be extra credit. Could it be an assignment? Interview one person of an Appalachian background, submit it for your class project, but we'll also submit these to UACC, so it'll be shared online. Do something like that. Does that make sense?
That makes, I think there are ways we can reach out to students. And the other thing is just I don't know if I caught this, but is there a timeline? Is this a continuous project that's going to go on indefinitely, or is there a kind of
at this point it's indefinite?
So
as long as we're able to keep the website going and have the staff or volunteers to upload and share it. Roberta?
I just wanted to ask Matt, do the regionals still have the Bachelor of Integrative Studies?
Yes, they do still have that. Yeah, that program.
There should be some of those organized in such a way that they could do this kind of project. I know when I taught one of the first, I don't know if you still have the 3 different courses that go with it, but I taught one and it wasn't recorded or huge or anything, but I had students do that very thing, to ask a few questions of people of Appalachian descent, not necessarily urban Appalachians. So there might be a way to put that in that particular major.
So I'm
Well,
aware we
yep.
haven't heard from Lisa, Debbie, Rhonda, or Julie, and I just want to make sure before we end, if you have questions or comments that you would like to share. Lisa, I think you're muted. You're muted still if you're speaking.
There we go. Okay, I was trying to unmute myself there. So my only question that I have is, I realize I'm in northern Appalachia, and that's where my people are from. And I saw on the website that they were saying things like, the greater Cincinnati area or something like that. I didn't know if you guys want interviews from people that live up in the Cleveland area or not, or if we can include those.
Our focus really is Cincinnati, but you know what? If you send us an email, if you send us a interview from someone from Cleveland, we'd love to have it.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to include that. How much. I don't think we'll probably be heading up to Cleveland to like help support the project, but we could always do it by Zoom and by email. So that would be great. And then your friends, Wilma,
Tom and Wilma.
Yeah, Tom and Wilma, who needed to go off. Are they in Cincinnati or are they also?
Yeah, they're all in Cincinnati. And I'm in Cincinnati too. I'm just visiting up in Cleveland right now, but my aunts and my mother and all them, and I could talk with them
because you're in Cincinnati and they're your family too. So
I was
that connection as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So Debbie or Rhonda or Julie.
Yeah, Pauletta, this is Rhonda. Yeah, I don't have any questions. I think this is a great project. I'm excited to hear some of the stories because there's not a whole lot of families left in Lower Price Hill that were there, for generational times, and it will be interesting to see, what's available and who's available to hear the story. So I'm excited to do that.
That'd be great. We'd love to have your involvement, Rhonda.
Mm-hmm. And I think Randy too needs to be interviewed.
Sure.
Yes, yes, Nancy. Is that what I hear? So Julie or Debbie?
I really enjoyed learning about this project, and the one thought I had in terms of maybe engaging students, that for me, it connects to movement in making democratic culture that is focused on critical intimacy, which is a way of, kind of creating culture by just changing the ways in which people come together. And it's not just storytelling. I mean, people talk about dancing together, making music together, gathering in different ways to know each other intimately, but like with this, they call it critical intimacy. And so maybe that may be another way to draw students in, to participate in something like this.
Yeah, thank you. And then finally, Debbie, I know you had a hard time finding folks who'd be willing to talk. Do you think you have any more tools to make that happen?
I think the fact that we have some examples is really helpful. And I think showing those examples is one way of helping to recruit. So that's a good thing. I'm a little curious about the two folks who apparently didn't stay with us and are from Kentucky, and I'm wondering if there's a way of roping them into the project. So maybe we can talk about that offline a little bit.
But I know one person said she needed to leave and would come back on, and I suspect the person at the soccer game had to drive away. So hopefully it was just a matter of that, and we can see about what their interest might be over time.
Right.
So we did promise that this would be 7 to 8:30, and it's 8:33, so we're pretty close to keeping our promises. What I would say in terms of next is, as Erin said, that we do have your email addresses, and in addition to being on our getting information about UACC more generally, I can email folks specifically who have been here and expressed interest in the project with basically the a version, a PDF version of the of what's on the website, to see if you might like to be involved in this. And we'll also put, you guys are the first people who've seen the video quilt, and we will also put a link to that on the website as well. We wanted to premiere it here at this meeting. But as Debbie is saying, that the sample videos can be helpful. That video quilt might be one thing, Debbie, that you might be able to use more, sort of more generally with people, since it's such a broad swath of folks. And then, let us, I'll reach out to you from the Story Project email address. So it'll be coming from UACC Story Project, and then with my name on it. And then just let me know, you'll have a way of contacting me directly to let me know what questions you have, and how Erin and I might be able to help make this make you be a part of this, which we would love to have happen. So any final comments from folks before we leave for the evening?
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see everyone.
Thank you. It was fun.
Good. Thanks. And thanks, Erin, for putting that video quilt together.
Yes.
That was lovely.
It was great, Erin.
Yeah.
No problem.
And I encourage people to go on that archive, on the website and on the archive, to see the full videos as well, because there's about, I think, I can't even count at this point, but 6 or 7 of them, all around 15 to 20 minutes, that I've had the opportunity to see, and would love for other people to see them as well.
They're fun.
Thanks for the doing the project and then hosting this launch.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you, Roberta,
We had
too.
food planned for this, but it didn't
Yeah, we
happen.
did. Yeah. Sorry.
We had a whole lot more.
I could offer you some water, but that's.
I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah, we had hoped to have this in person.
Right. Then it just isn't working yet. It will. It will
Soon.
soon. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
I'll hang
Bye.
out in
Bye.
case there's any questions. So I'll hang out till everyone's gone. But thanks. very
Okay.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Sandra, we'll have to figure out how to get you in so you can see everybody.
You know what? With my ADD, it's probably better that I'm only seeing one person at a time, because I might not be able to stay as quiet as I was tonight.
I have to keep muting myself. Yes, I understand.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Pauletta.
Uh-huh.
First of all, I just have to say to you and Erin.
Let me go ahead and stop the recording.
Okay.